Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided. This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy is sponsored by Thomson Reuters, providing legal professionals with the intelligence, technology, and human expertise they need to find trusted answers. Products include Westlaw, Practical Law, and Firm Central legal practice management software for small law firms. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. Online at thomsonreuters.com. Access to Democracy is made possible in part by a donation from Firefly Credit Union. Firefly is the new name of U.S. Federal Credit Union, which has proudly served the financial needs of the Greater Twin Cities community since 1925. At Firefly, we guide our members forward and give them the power to chase dreams by delivering the financial solutions they need to get ahead. From checking accounts to mortgages, we'll light the way. We are Firefly Credit Union, and this is Life Illuminated. And Dr. Charles Crutchfield of award-winning Crutchfield Dermatology in Eagan, acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. A Minnesota native who trained at the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Crutchfield personally treats all patients and states that experience counts and quality matters. Crutchfield Dermatology. Look good, feel great, with beautiful skin.
And welcome to Access to Democracy. Alan Miller back with you, and we have a guest. We were just discussing whether Vicki Wright had been on the show several moons ago, and we mean several moons ago. But Vicki is here representing the Minnesota DFL today. And Vicki, what's your position at present? Because you've had so many with the organization.
Well, all my other positions were volunteers in the organization, but right now I'm working full-time as a training and party affairs director.
Couldn't be more important.
It really is.
This election.
It really is. We have so many new people, a lot of new enthusiasm, a lot of people wanting to get involved, and my job is primarily to be a liaison between the state party organization and all of the grassroots activists, the people who are doing the work on the ground in all the local units.
And we have all the Bernie people who we want to bring into the organization. Yes. I was one of them.
Oh, really?
And yeah, except I've been around for longer than dirt has been around, but that's, yeah. Now you just came back from the convention.
I did, yeah. It was quite an experience.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the National Convention is for a delegate. I think it's so much going on, you can't even take it all in. And I think that they have a lot to choose from and a lot of activities that they wish they could go to. It's such a gathering, such a large gathering that they find themselves having to make choices during the day, and then at night, it's a full, almost 8 hours every night, starting about 4 o'clock, and sometimes going to about midnight. And it's a long time, a lot of speeches, but a lot of conversation and interaction with the other delegates too. It's a lot of fun.
Great speeches, as opposed to the other convention the week earlier.
Yeah, we had a wonderful selection of people to speak.
And Michelle Obama just knocked everybody's socks off.
Yeah, very thrilling first night.
As did, the president.
Yeah.
As did certainly the introduction of Chelsea.
For Hillary, yes. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
And then the speech, yeah.
We felt that every single day of the convention, it built to a climax, and the excitement just kept getting greater and greater. It was one of those things that you didn't even realize how much time had passed because the excitement kept building throughout the evening. And I talked to some friends who watched the convention at home, and they said it seemed very tiring to them because there was so much going on, and they didn't want to leave their seats.
So well organized.
It was really masterful. We were very proud. My 90 90-plus-year-old mother called me just ecstatic. She says, "Oh, I'm just so proud. I'm so happy. It's just going so well." And that was really fun to hear.
And it has shown in the jump in terms of polls. However, my feeling is that the polls mean nothing at this point.
They mean more now than they used to, but I agree with you to a point.
The last thing the Democrats need to do is to get complacent
Yes.
or overconfident.
Right. That's a big part of my job.
And that's where training comes in.
That's
yeah.
right, and making sure that people understand that that the presidential election is capturing all the oxygen in the room right now, but we as a state party organization, we want to focus as well and even perhaps more heavily on our local races, because this is where democracy really counts, and where power of the people really counts is at the local and state level. The presidential election will almost kind of take care of itself by comparison. We really need people to understand that their work is needed here in Minnesota to help us win our majorities in the legislature
important.
and so on. Yes, very important. And also,
especially, I think, in the House.
yeah,
Big disappointment in the Minnesota House this year.
yeah.
No doubt about it, and I mean doubt, D-A-U-D-T.
I'll let you say that. Yes, we really feel that that there's a lot of opportunity to make some real progress, and we really want to see that happen. The Democrats are really united on that, and we believe that there's a tremendous opportunity if we can win back the House, and hopefully maintain our majority as well in the Senate is very, very vital.
So somebody shows up at headquarters and says, I want to get involved, I want to get active. They refer that person to you for training, and walk us through a little bit of the process.
Well, what we try to do is immediately connect them with their local unit, because every local unit in the state, no matter where they are, is hungry for volunteers, hungry for people to assist in this whole process. And of course, there are 3 reasons that people get involved in politics. One is campaigns and candidates, another is issues, and the third is party organization. And not everyone is equally interested in all 3 of those. So we try to determine right off the bat, what is someone's motivating factor? Why do they want to become involved? And then we try to match them up with the kind of activities that will keep them engaged. And so I work hard with the local units to try to encourage them to not just immediately put somebody on the phones or door knocking. That may not be the one thing that they're the best at. Maybe they have other skills that might be better applied. And so sometimes people get turned off if the only thing that's offered to them is a meeting or a walk list or something. Maybe there's something else that they could contribute and stay engaged longer and be more enthusiastic about.
Yours is a much more sophisticated approach than ours is here. For instance, with our volunteers and the young ladies who are on the cameras today, when they were in for the first time, we literally threw them off the dock and said, swim. And they did a great job because they're young and they know so much more about technical, IT, things like that.
Well, we find in a lot of the units, this is one of the big needs that we have, is to make sure that people are up to speed on social media, that they can fully utilize their internet capabilities for pushing information out. And one of the things that we really stress is to try to engage young people who have interest in those areas or are creative in some way and want to engage in other aspects. Like I say, sometimes going to meetings is not the most stimulating thing there is. So we really look to try to match people up with what they would enjoy doing. And the other thing I always stress in all my trainings is make friends first. If you make friends with someone, you engage in a social way, get to know them, find out who they are, why they're there, why they're interested in democratic politics in any way, then you can gradually bring them in and ask them to do some work, and they're more willing to do it because it's more fun that way. So we work hard on really stressing that relationship building. It's most important.
If I start clutching the air, there's one little bug.
Yeah, I've noticed it.
But it's flying around. It isn't
Yeah.
supposed to be in here, but I think it's a GOP drone.
Oh, it could be.
So
All right, I'll watch what I say.
It's disguised as a little bug, so if we can put a stop to it, I will. But
Okay.
you never know these days.
Yeah, yeah. So as far as the training, you asked me a little bit about that too. We do training sessions at some of our big state central committee meetings and things, and we also offer them in a roadshow situation. And during the off year, we do a major training summit where we gather people for an entire day of workshops and speeches and presentations and so on from given by people from all over the United States who have expertise in certain areas. A lot of them are named are names that people would recognize. It's been very successful, and I fully anticipate we'll do another one next year. It's almost like a convention in and of itself, but it's all focused on training.
Well, this, of course, is the big year.
Yeah.
Next year is
Yeah.
what's considered an off year, but it's not
Yeah.
an off year
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
it's important every year.
We do a lot of our organizational building in the non-election year, and we really try to stress that this should never be thought of as an off year. A lot of people put all their energy into the election and the election year, and then they just want to relax and kind of leave politics alone for a while. And that, unfortunately, in this day and age, we can't risk losing our grip on our volunteers or on our party visibility or any of the things that are necessary to gear up then for yet again another election year to
Because
come.
we know in 2 years the entire House will run again.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, that goes for Congress as well as locally. So that's not a long period of time.
That's right. That's right. It's
the
a great.
Senate here is 4 years. The United States Senate is 6 years, but then we're going to have Franken coming up. We're going to have Klobuchar coming up. A really important people to keep where they are or move up, as
That's right.
Klobuchar was mentioned quite a few times for the vice presidential nod. And
It's pretty exciting. Even Al Franken was as well.
Yeah.
And it was really exciting for us in Minnesota. I feel like we had some tremendous rock stars to point to in our delegation with Senator Klobuchar, Senator Franken there.
disproportionate amount of Minnesotans who had prominence in that convention, which
We're very
speaks
proud
to
of
the
that.
state. Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
it speaks to the
Yeah.
state.
It was very exciting to see.
And your training.
Well,
at
and
the-
we also had Peggy Flanagan was there as well. She
Yeah.
made a speech to the body. It was really a very great thing, and we were so proud of that.
Now, you are a former Eganite.
That's correct.
You have left us and moved to St. Paul, but the entire time that you were living here, I think, was during the John Klein second
yes.
district, second congressional district
Yes.
representation in Congress.
Yes.
John is retiring. He used to be here. He was here many times, probably 36 times over the years, and he's retiring. So the people are going to be faced with a very big choice, even though we're here on Friday and next Tuesday is the date of the primary. There is no primary for Angie Craig, the Democratic candidate.
Yeah.
So talk to Angie for a little bit.
Well, I first met Angie when I was still here in Eagan and active in the local Senate district here. I was chair in Eagan, Burnsville for 6 years, and one of the
Very successful years.
very successful years. We're really proud of it. During my tenure is when we turned Eagan blue for the first time. That was in 2008. 2 years before that, we had won 2 of our seats, our Senate and House seat. And then in 2008, we completed the trifecta, and we had all 3 seats in 2008. So very proud of that achievement. And so we definitely made Eagan into a political force to be contended with, I think. But to speak to Angie, one of the things that was so wonderful about Angie is long before she expressed any direct interest in running for office, she was deeply involved at volunteering, getting to know people, doing all kinds of the basic work that grassroots activists do.
And raising money.
And yes, and raising
Which
her
is
and also raising
so important.
raising her visibility, getting to know people, and really building those relationships, like I was mentioning before. It's the thing that Senator Franken did out here in this area very well, and all over the state as well. Before he even really got into serious campaigning, he spent a lot of time meeting people, hearing what they had to say, listening to them, building those relationships so that when he did announce, he had a very strong number of people supporting him. This is the same strategy.
He had a particular challenge because he was Al Franken, the comedian, the writer.
Right.
And people had to learn how serious and how involved and how informed he really is, which they have learned.
And I think it worked to his advantage, and I think that Angie, having the opposite challenge, needing to get to know people and introduce herself, did a masterful job at really building those strong relationships that now I believe are going to translate into tremendous support and activism here in this whole district.
And it looks like Jason Lewis will be, the former radio host,
Right.
will be the Republican candidate. I'm not sure if he has endorsed Trump or not, but I would guess that he has because he's very, very far to the right.
Yeah, I don't have information on that myself, but
that to me is an immediate turnoff to any of these people that have not disavowed Donald Trump at this point.
I expect we may see more of it as time goes on. I am surprised that we haven't seen more yet, but I think this is a kind of challenge that no party has ever faced before, and it's confounding, I'm sure.
Back in January, I penned an article which the Star Tribune chose not to publish, in which I said that I think in this race, candidates should have to go under some sort of psychological profile. Well, now looking back 7 months later, that article was prophetic because I think that we really have a mentally ill individual heading the Republican ticket.
Well, I don't know that I can speak to that, but I think he certainly is ill-prepared for the role. One of the things that I find really surprising is that anyone could believe that someone with no political experience, has never held office before or even run for office, could possibly effectively do the job of President of the United States. It's inconceivable. And had Trump ever run for office or whatever, many of these attributes would probably have been revealed in that case. And so,
very true.
In a way, I think there ought to be some stipulation that someone with previous governmental experience or certainly political experience is really only, that's minimal qualification to run for that
The thought
office.
of him even being close to the nuclear suitcase is really frightening, as several people have said recently in the media and as is in the New York Times by a former CIA director today. And the importance of this vote is just, in my lifetime, I don't think any has been really
I think
more important.
this is the kind of experience that all politicians will look back on and say and question, what did they do during this period? What did they say? What could they have done differently? What could, how did this occur, and how can we prevent it in the future? And I think for anyone who is supporting this particular candidate, they may find that that's going to be a real detriment to them in the future.
One of the things that I've heard a lot is that, and we know there are a lot of disaffected people, there are a lot of unhappy people, there are a lot of people who have been struggling, and they're saying that they're either the Trump people or, in large part, the Bernie people. The difference is that Bernie Sanders has been involved his entire life. He was a mayor, he was in the House of Representatives, he has been a senator for a number of years, and for 40 years he has brought the same program forward, standing for the same things.
That's right.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, and we have seen that in Trump, has been involved in promoting Donald Trump.
Yeah, yeah. There's a big difference.
With no legislative experience, with no governmental experience. And so those two don't really equate.
No, not at all. And really, we felt on the Democratic side that we had wonderful candidates to choose from, and I don't think that anyone had any feelings other than we can't go wrong here. Depending on who's nominated, we're going to do well, and we're going to be proud of that nominee. And I really do believe that we are coming together as a party behind Secretary Clinton. But I do believe that had Senator Sanders won, we would have done the same.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, because these are people with great integrity and a deep love of country and who care about other people and what happens to them, certainly even more than they care about themselves, or they wouldn't do this work. This is probably not true of the Republican nominee right now.
Well, it's interesting because he destroyed so many people on
Yeah.
his way to the nomination,
Yeah.
and then you don't just turn around and expect them to welcome you back with open arms. I mean,
It's true.
You're running against somebody, yes, and obviously you want to win, and obviously it gets the heat of the moment, yes, but he takes it a step further and is really ruthless and vicious and bullying. And I'm speaking of Donald Trump,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
And then to expect those people, even where he abused their families, to then back him up or join the party
Yeah.
is ludicrous.
Yeah, once again, I believe in relationships. Politics is all about relationships, and even if you don't agree on everything, figure out where those points of agreement lie. It's not about this divide and conquer and this sort of scorched earth approach that certainly was taking place on the side of the Republican during the primary season. And I think that certainly there are a lot of members of the GOP who are deeply concerned about this situation, and I feel for them. I think this
Some of them have been coming forward.
Yes, they have, and I do feel for those who are concerned, and I think that I hope there'll be a lot of investigation or soul searching done as a result of this, so that something like this doesn't happen again in the future. But you know, those of us here in Minnesota, we recognize some of what happened when Jesse Ventura ran for governor.
That's true.
No one really expected him to win. Therefore, the media was a little bit engaging with him. They thought he was entertaining, but they weren't really serious in their questioning of him, really. They generally just sort of served up some easy questions, and he was, he's a clever and glib personality, and he was able to handle them in an entertaining way. And I think they misjudged him by
and
far.
the only thing I think that really he accomplished during his gubernatorial years was the fact that he followed the advice of his commission in the appointment of judges. Very important.
And I don't think that, and I'm not comparing Donald Trump to Jesse Ventura really, but what I feel is that he wasn't taken seriously as a candidate, therefore he wasn't thoroughly vetted by the press or even by the voters. They were attracted to him, but they didn't know that much about him or what to expect. And certainly he wasn't entirely ineffective, as you're saying.
Surprise, surprise.
But I think those of us who lived through that, we looked at the Trump situation and we're wondering, why aren't they questioning him harder? Why are they being so easy on him? And it's because of the entertainment factor. And I think only now are people really seriously confronting some of the things he's saying.
And you're starting
it's a little
to
late.
see, you're starting to see that in the press.
Yeah, but it's a little late in the process,
but
and so that's
you're
a little
absolutely
concerning.
Right. It's, the help that he got
Yeah.
in the free media
Yeah.
that put him where he is today, I
Yeah.
have no doubt.
Yeah.
And I mentioned courts
Yeah.
a moment ago. It is so important in terms of who we elect as president.
Absolutely.
Because there's going to be at least one vacancy in the Supreme Court, possibly 2 or 3, that will really, really affect the direction of this country, possibly for the next decade or even longer. And
Yeah.
Hillary appointing a Supreme Court justice, or maybe adopting the one who's already been appointed but not approved outrageously by the Senate, by Barack Obama, is one thing. Who Donald Trump could appoint to the Supreme Court really boggles the mind and frightens the hell out of me.
Well, and it's interesting how politicized the Supreme Court has become, and that began, you know, decades ago, really. I don't think we really thought of the Supreme Court as a political entity 40 years ago, or pre-Reagan, let's say. And I think it has, over time, become far more of a political kind of push-pull, and I'm surprised. Yeah, and
in
it's,
the Supreme Court,
it's perhaps not the most desirable thing. I think the idea that they would be lifetime appointees and so on, and the idea that they would then be outside the political fray, I think certainly is an ideal that we should go for ultimately. But I agree with you that the danger of putting unqualified or highly partisan judges, justices on the Supreme Court would be extremely detrimental.
Trump has already said he will do.
Yeah.
And that is pretty frightening. We're very lucky in Minnesota. We've had a really outstanding Supreme Court, and we continue to have
Absolutely.
it.
And partisanship is really not
Paul
a concern.
Anderson, who's retired in 2013, has been here many, many times. I think we've had maybe 5 of the 7 justices on the show.
Yeah.
And he was here just 2 weeks ago. And we have some new justices coming on, and we expect to see them in the coming weeks. And yes, we've been very fortunate
I think so.
to have a governor who really, really worked hard to pick the best, and we have the best, and it's so important.
I agree. Well, and I want to go back to also Angie Craig again, the idea that we can elect such a wonderful candidate to the Congress, and if we could in any way change the makeup of the U.S. Congress, I think would be a tremendous boon to this nation. I go beyond the politics in this. I really care about the programs that we should be enacting, the kinds of things that we need to have happen.
And the things that haven't even been brought to the floor of the Congress.
Well, you know, the thing, what I don't understand is why infrastructure building and so on could possibly be a political football. To me, that is something that is strongly pro-business, it's pro-community building, it's pro-nation. I mean, why would there ever be any kind of dispute over allocating funds to?
You wouldn't think so,
to do those
especially when
kinds of
interest
things.
rates are as low as they are.
Right.
And the music blaring out like that indicates to me that we've used up a half an hour.
Really?
And I don't know why I do research, because there's so much I haven't gotten to. Vicki Wright, Minnesota DFL, thank you so much.
My great pleasure. Thank you, Alan.